He is the Packers' old reliable 12th year out of Alcorn State. Donald Driver's been a Packer since '99, all-time leader in receptions. Moments ago, Donald on the field with Andrea Kramer. Andrea.
Thank you very much, Al. Well, Donald, 2 straight overtime losses coming into this game. What specific things does the team need to do to get back in the win column?
Just win. You know, that's our biggest thing right now is we got to get back on the winning track, and we know we can do it. You know, we've been beating ourselves for the last couple of weeks. We got to quit beating ourselves and just play our style of football. You know, it's a team game. You know, football is football. We got to start playing and having fun.
Now, some of your teammates felt there was too much emphasis placed on the 2 Vikings games last season, that guys played nervous and made mistakes. In what way is the approach different tonight?
Well, it was different. You know, he left it up to the players. Left it up to the players to make the decision on how we was going to play tonight. And we all came together and said, let's just have fun. And every guy believed in that. And tonight, that's what it's all about, having fun.
All right, thanks very much, Ron.
All right, Andrea, thank you. The NFC North standings as of the moment. Chicago losing to Washington this afternoon. 4-3 on top. Green Bay trying to get to 4-3. Vikings try to get to 500, and the Lions have lost 5 of 6. You look at Mike McCarthy, you saw Brad Childress, the 2 coaches, each to their respective posts in 2006. So each in his 5th season. Minnesota will get the ball, which means we'll see Favre right off the bat. Percy Harvin had a big run back last week, 95 yards, second half against Dallas for a TD. Mason Crosby to kick off. And from Lambeau Field in Green Bay, here we go on Sunday Night Football. Harvin from the 3. The coverage is great. He gets taken down at the 15-yard line. Brett Favre coming out to lead the Vikings from deep in their own territory. 119th regular season start at Lambeau. That's an NFL record. Most starts at one stadium by a quarterback, breaking a tie with John Elway, who had started 118 at Mile High. And at Mile High today, they wish Elway was back for his 119th, the way things turned out. Randy Moss comes wide to the left. On first down, handoff to AP, Adrian Peterson. He gets stacked up after a gain of 2. Desmond Bishop is there. Let's meet the Vikings offense.
Brett Favre, University of Southern Mississippi.
Adrian Peterson, Oklahoma.
Randy Moss, Rand University.
Percy Harvin, Florida. Satu Shenko, Morgan State Bears.
Jim Kleinsasser, North Dakota. Brian McKinney, the U. Steve Hutchinson, Michigan. John Sullivan, Notre Dame.
Anthony Herrera, the real UT. Phil Loho, Oklahoma.
So it'll be second down and 8. Adrian Peterson had a helmet problem, so he went off the field. That means Toby Gerhardt, the rookie from Stanford, is the running back, and he takes it for a gain of about 5 up to the 23. So Peterson carried and then went off with a helmet issue. And right now, Brett Favre with a 3rd down, and Peterson is looking out to the field to tell Gerhardt, we assume that he's ready to go back in, but he may not because it's 3rd down. And they empty the backfield, so no back here. You've got 4 receivers in a bunch to the left and 1 to the right, and then 1 is Moss. And here's a screen, but it's juggled, and the tackle is made on Harvin immediately. So it's a 3 and out to the delight of the Lambeau faithful.
And I believe that was Charlie Peppera who came up and made this play. Watch him come up from right here. They've got blockers in front of him, and he just goes right through them and makes the play. That's good news for the Packers. Peppera is their 3rd safety back there. It has been a merry-go-round at safety for them.
Chris Kluwe sends the punt to the 30. Tramon Williams, one of their starting cornerbacks, and he's done a good job this year. Brings it back to the 40. That's where Rodgers and his group will take over, and let's meet them.
Aaron Rodgers, California.
Brandon Jackson, Nebraska. Corey Hall, Boise State.
Greg Jennings, Kalamazoo Central High School.
Donald Driver, Alcorn State.
Donald Lee, Mississippi State.
Chad Clifton, Tennessee.
Darren College, Boise State.
Scott Wells, Tennessee.
Josh Sutton, UCF.
Brian Balaga, Iowa.
Keep your eye on Balaga tonight. He's the guy starting in place of Mark Tauscher, who missed Misses his third straight game. The rookie out of Iowa, first-round draft choice. And to begin on the ground, and the ball is loose. It is Brandon Jackson, who may have recovered his own fumble. That was Chad Greenway, 52, who got his arm in there. So almost an early disaster for Green Bay, but Jackson able to cover it up.
Absolutely unbelievable. I think this ball bounced off of Brian Balaga right back to Jackson. He never really gets a handle on it, and then all of a sudden it gets popped out by Greenway. But watch this, a little side kick right back into the hands of Jackson, and talk about an early break. That's a good one. No wonder the Packers don't like to run the ball that much.
Well, they don't run the ball for good reason. Ryan Grant was hurt on opening day and is out for the year, and this is Donald Lee with blockers in front. And Lee takes the ball into Minnesota territory before he's tackled at the 44-yard line by Greenway and Williams. Gain of 16, first down.
Well, one of the things when you play the Vikings, you have to present some different looks to them. And the Vikings are used to seeing people chip on their outside guys, so they really didn't think much of Donald Lee there, flanked outside at the tight end position. And here's the old guy getting up and showing he's still got some legs underneath him. They're sort of phasing him out a little bit these days, especially after the injury to Jermichael Finley, going to some younger guys.
44-yard line. Andrew Quarles is now the tight end. There's the fake inside give. Rodgers loves to get out of the pocket, and he can run, and he proves it right there as if you didn't know it. Aaron Rodgers. And that should be enough for a first down. It is.
Yeah, and Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator, is not going to be happy with this one. They know Aaron Rodgers loves to move to his right. There was pretty good protection there, but if they're going to do anything tonight, in their words, they want to herd him left. They want him moving to the left. They feel like all his big plays come when he scrambles to the right side.
Try to get him to throw against the grain if they can. Easier said than done. The ball is at the 33. Come up with Kuhn as the fullback here. Jackson as the running back, and they're going to give it to the fullback, and that's John Kuhn. Let's see the guys who start for Minnesota on defense.
Ray Edwards, Cincinnati Woodward.
Pat Williams, Wasman High School. Kevin Williams, Oklahoma State.
Jared Allen, Culinary Academy.
Chad Greenway, University of Iowa.
E.J. Henderson, Maryland.
Ben Lieber, Kansas State.
Antoine Winfield, The Ohio State University.
Madieu Williams, Maryland.
Tyrell Johnson, Arkansas State.
Asher Allen, Tucker High School.
The Culinary Academy's Jared Allen, 7.5 sacks last year in the 2 games, and you've got a flag before the snap. Scott Green is the referee tonight. Who's first?
Yeah, it looked like Darren College may have flinched.
False start. Offense, number 73. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
You are correct.
Now, there was some movement, and then, of course, you can be drawn offside by the defensive movement, but it has to be the player adjacent to you. It cannot be somebody on the outside of the line of scrimmage, and while the movement was over the left defensive end, he was the left guard on the opposite side, so it didn't count.
So those numbers since Rodgers became the starter in 08, 14 of those 18 sacks in the 2 games last season. 5 minutes into the game, it's a 2nd and 16 for Green Bay, and they'll run the draw. Jackson to the 26-yard line, and they've cashed their lot with Jackson. When Grant got hurt on opening day, Jackson's been around. He's been the backup back, a 3rd down guy. They drafted him in 07. They could have traded for somebody, picked somebody else up off the street, but no, it's going to be Jackson, at least for now.
Watch Josh sitting here, Al. He's going to come off this double team and go get the linebacker down the field in Greenway, and he made Greenway choose a side, and when he jumped inside, that allowed Jackson to jump outside.
Gain of 14, turns a 2nd and 16 into a 3rd and 2. Rodgers taking the snap from the shotgun. 4-man front for Minnesota, long count. They rush 4. Rodgers escapes to his left, throws, and that will be caught for a first down by Jones. So Chris is talking about trying to get him to go out to his left, figuring they have a better chance. He's able to go to his left, go against the grain, and find Jones right on the sideline.
Well, the key in playing the Vikings, can you protect? Right here, Chad Clifton, number 76, playing as well as I've seen him play in a long time. On the other side is the young rookie, Brian Balaga, and he's working against Ray Edwards. They actually plan to give him more help than Clifton tonight. But there it was, Aaron Rodgers going right first and then going left and making a play, so who knows?
1st and 10, Rodgers from the gun, 12-yard line. And they set up a screen, and he throws it right into the arms of Jared Allen. A gift. He tried to get it to Dimitri Nance, who had just come into the game to flank him in the backfield. And Jared Allen, who had 2 tremendous games against the Pack last year, starts with a pick on Green Bay's first series. First and 10 at the 22 after the pick by Allen. Second series for Minnesota, and Favre will gun it incomplete. Intended for Shanko, and let's take a look at the pick.
And I think that Aaron Rodgers got distracted on this play. You're going to see some pressure right here by Kevin Williams, and watch how long Rodgers looks at that. Sitting almost holds him, and then by the time he flips his head around, he just lost track of Jared Allen, but that's significant. Aaron Rodgers had thrown 173 straight passes in the red zone without an interception, and that killed that.
And last year, as Adrian Peterson on his second carry, last year all season long, Rodgers threw 7 interceptions. That's already his 8th this season in 6 games plus half a quarter.
Yeah, it really is remarkable that both Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers threw over 30 touchdown passes and just 7 interceptions. No quarterback in the history of the league had ever done that, and they both did it last year. And this year, now 8 and 7 interceptions between the 2 guys already.
3rd and 5, and that means Toby Gerhart comes into the game as the 3rd down back. Remember, they had Chester Taylor on 3rd down the last 2 years, now with the Chicago Bears. Gerhart stays in the block, and Favre almost has that one intercepted at the 32-yard line. That's Nick Collins, the safety, breaking it up. So again, Brett Favre and a 3 and out.
Pretty good play by a veteran right back here. Nick Collins is going to come up here. He knows this is a hot read for Brett. He just jumps right underneath that little arrow out route and almost came up with it. And really, when you're playing Brett, you need to make those kinds of interceptions.
Kluwe's second punt of the night, fielded at the 23-yard line. Tramon Williams looking for space and finds absolutely none. The coverage is very good by the Minnesota Vikings right there. Frank Walker with the tackle. Packer ball. Talking about the interceptions for these 2 guys, last year each throwing 7 all season, and it was extraordinary. Rodgers won every 77 passes, Favre won every 76 through the course of history in the NFL. The quarterbacks who've thrown interceptions at a rate of 1 per 75 passes or more, 16 times it's been done, but nobody's done it twice. So you couldn't expect either guy to duplicate that, but here's Rodgers already over the limit in this, the 7th game of the season. 1st and 10 now with the ball at the 24-yard line. Rodgers fires and finds the open man, and that is Greg Jennings, near midfield, tackled at the 49-yard line, beats the rookie Chris Cook, the rookie out of Virginia, for a gain of 24.
Well, anytime you get that kind of protection, Greg Jennings is going to have time to work down the field, and I think the Minnesota Vikings, who got burned a few times by the Cowboys last week on some of those deep routes on the outside, now playing it a little bit differently, not wanting to give those up. Good move by the Packers to break it back inside early, try to test their patience.
Under 7 minutes remaining in the quarter. On the ground now, Jackson looking for room over the right side. Gets the ball into Minnesota territory to the 46-yard line. So for Jackson, he's going to be such a key man this year, and assuming they don't pick somebody else up, but they had a chance to. A lot of the fans wanted them to go to somebody else. But here is Jackson thrust into this role now, Chris. He goes from 3rd down back to every down back because of the season-ending injury to Ryan Grant on opening day.
Yeah, and they were saying that maybe they took Ryan Grant a little bit for granted. The fact that He was a 1,200-yard rusher every year and really a physical downhill kind of player, and they've been missing that.
2nd and 5. And that's caught by James Jones, his second catch of the night. Takes him inside the 10, and he's taken down at the 2-yard line. Tyrell Johnson saving the touchdown. It's a gain of 45.
Vikings come on a blitz, and their young corner, Chris Cook, slips and falls down on the outside, and you just can't do that with these Packers receivers. He's had an injury to his left knee, he had an injury to his right knee. Earlier in the week, Leslie Frazier, the defensive coordinator, was not sure he'd be ready. They took a chance, they're playing him, and so far, he got burned on that one.
And he's supplanting Cedric Griffin, who got hurt last year, came back and is back on IR again after another season-ending injury. On 1st and goal, it's a great tackle in the backfield. Pat Williams, happy birthday, Pat Williams. 38 today. He's the oldest defensive player in the National Football League.
And you know, I thought Pat Williams played one of the best games I've seen him play in a long time against the Dallas Cowboys last week. They weren't happy with him against the Jets. They let him know, and he responded by making plays just like this. Getting penetration, getting in the backfield. That time, Scott Wells, the center, no match for the big guy.
And now you've got flags going down after the play.
Illegal substitution. Defense, 12 men on the previous play. Half the distance to the goal. Go first down.
So 12 men. And of course, the Vikings don't want to hear about 12 men. That was a killer on the other side of the ball in the NFC Championship game against New Orleans. And this time it cost them a loss in the backfield. There goes the early birthday present for Williams. And we're back to 1st and goal. Jackson and Kuhn are the backs. Kuhn the fullback. Brandon Jackson, and he will get into the end zone for a Packer touchdown.
Can't block Pat Williams with one, block him with two. They go double team and then up on the linebacker here. Nice job by Josh Sitton. This is the young man, Josh Sitton, their right guard. They really feel like he's going to be in Hawaii pretty soon. A big, nasty, physical guy that keeps them all cracking up in the locker room. One of those funny guys.
Crosby for the point after. Jackson with his 2nd touchdown of the season. And a Lambeau leap at the end. 130 yards for Green Bay to this point. 9 for Minnesota. 7-0 Pack. The Nitschke Bridge, named for old number 66. The great linebacker Ray Nitschke. Here we are at Lambeau Field on Lombardi Avenue. Holmgren Way, not far away. And Minnesota has Percy Harvin collecting it at the 7, and Harvin with a good run back here. Out past the 40 and riding Williams for about 12 more yards into Green Bay territory all the way to the Packer 44-yard line. So good field position for Favre and company after a 47-yard return by Harvin. Almost all of you know Brett Favre is currently under investigation by the NFL regarding allegations that he sent inappropriate pictures and text messages to Jen Sturger, a former New York Jets employee, when Brett was a member of that team in 2008. Now, Brett was interviewed by NFL Security Vice President Milt Ulrich on Tuesday at the Vikings training facility. If he's found to have violated the league's personal conduct policy, he could be subject to a fine or a suspension as they start this drive from the 44. And Hawk can't get Peterson in the backfield, but then he's taken down by Pepper. Now, the league has not said anything more than the investigation's ongoing. It was reported today that the league wants to wrap this up in the next week to 10 days. For his part, Favre has not addressed this directly. He's deflected all questions by turning all of his answers back to football. So you can talk to him about it. The press has tried, and people have tried privately, but this is all about when he talks to you about this, he deflects it and sends it back to football. How it's not a distraction, I can't believe that in some way, shape, or form for him and for the team. 2nd down and 10. with the ball at the 44-yard line. Peterson again to the short side of the field, about 2 yards shy of the first down off a Tahi block. What do you think, Chris?
Well, first of all, this is about the possibility of sexual harassment. And if this were not an NFL employee, it would certainly be a big matter in Brett Favre's household, but it wouldn't be a big matter to the league. But we did ask him if he got suspended by the commissioner, would he just pack it up and retire? And his answer was no, I'm committed to this team. No matter what happens this year, whatever happens, happens.
3rd and 1, a toss back to Peterson. And Peterson, with some nifty running, picks up a first down. And also, Chris, the interesting thing is with Favre, I mean, we went through all of the drama as we've gone through the last 3 or 4 years. Will he retire? Won't he retire? They send a reconnaissance mission down to Mississippi. They bring him back. It's all about the ankle. How's his ankle when the season starts? Nobody's talking about the ankle right now. By the way, he says it's fine. Then it became the elbow, and now, of course, it's this.
Yeah, it seems to always be something. And he said that, you know, the elbow has been a bit of an issue for him, too, that it felt great 1 week after the cortisone shot, but that starts to wear off, too.
Here's Peterson. And if you saw him in that Monday night game against the Jets, it looked like his elbow was killing him. Then he told us, and he's told everybody, you know, since then, too, that he took that cortisone shot right after the game. He said that cortisone shot was a monster.
Yeah, it felt good for a week, but like everything else, it wears off, and you can only take one about once every 6 weeks. He was, I'm sure, thrilled the rain went away so he didn't have to throw a heavy football tonight like he did against the Jets.
Right, he said rained all day yesterday and rained a good part of the day today and stopped in the afternoon. And then Favre checks it down and he goes to Shanko. And Shanko, who told us last night that he wants to be known as Vicente. I said, how do you want your name pronounced? You say Vicente on your introduction. Which way? I've heard 50. He said, I'm now Vicente. Vicente makes the catch.
You know,
funny guy.
There are so many guys that change their name during the course of the season. I'm getting too old to remember them all.
Me too. Toby Gerhardt is the back on 3rd down. 3rd and 4. Moss still hasn't caught a ball tonight. He was flanked to the left. That pass is caught, and they go to Shanko. Vicente, by any other name, whatever you want to call him, that's 2 catches in a row. Tackled by Chiller, but a flag is down after what would have been a 14-yard gain. Scott Green.
After the play, delay of game, number 81, throwing the ball, 5-yard penalty, first down.
So the first down counts. He says I shouldn't have done it. Delay of game cost him 5.
Well, a bit of good news here for the Vikings. They've been really struggling at this 3rd down back, but Toby Gerhardt here steps up and makes the right block. Albert Young has been in there, and he has missed some key blocks on 3rd down situations. So really all they want out of Gerhardt is just pick up the right guy. We're going to get you in the right call, understand what we're doing, make the block, and our passing game will get back on track.
Minute 20 to go in the opening frame. Moss wide left. Harvin now comes into the backfield, and they're going to give it to Harvin. And Harvin through the middle for a touchdown. And that is something the Vikings want to start to do more and more. Get Harvin the ball either by throwing it to him or, as they did last week against Dallas as well, handing it off to him and letting him exploit the middle of the defense, which he does brilliantly right there.
And this is the value of Percy Harvin. There's no backs in the game. All of a sudden, you motion him from out wide at the wide receiver position, bring him back inside. You've got your running back, you've got your touchdown.
Ryan Longwell for the extra point. And so the Green Bay Packers, in a little under 4 minutes, go 44 yards in 7 plays. Harvin set it up with a run back, scores the touchdown. We're tied. What could be crazier? From the 9-yard line. Pat Lee's going to run this back. Angles across the field. and runs about 50 yards to get about 12 or so net, and we go back to that Harvin TD.
You get so used to seeing Percy Harvin running around and doing these things. Watch now, they're going to run a counter back inside, and it's the tight end, Jeff Dugan, who's going to come up on A.J. Hawk and make the key block right there. Pretty cool stuff. That was cleverly designed, and it's off of a lot of the stuff that they like to do with those outside plays.
And you've got an injured Viking down on the field on the kickoff return. Eric Frampton was the Viking who was shaken up, but he walked off the field. And looks like he'll be back on the next special teams situation. Meanwhile, Rodgers and Favre. Last year, take a look at that. Favre throwing for fewer yards, but of course the difference was those 7 TDs and no picks. And 14 sacks of Rodgers, and Favre didn't go down once. So approaching the final minute of the quarter. Game tied at 7 from the 21-yard line. Good protection. Rodgers throws into traffic. Beautifully thrown pass. Caught by Jones between 2 defenders. It is Williams and Cook who are there, and they're really going to work on Cook tonight. Another big catch right here for Jones, his 3rd of the night, for 84 yards total.
Look at the added protection in here. Andrew Quarles inside. They're just trying to buy enough time, because this is that route that the Cowboys worked against the Vikings a week ago. Down those seams on the outside against that cover 2 defense. And you knew Aaron Rodgers was going to take his shot tonight as well.
32-yard gain here. And then they dump it off. Beautifully designed screen. Jackson down the sideline and gets taken down at about the 10-yard line. Greg Jennings throwing the block to Springham. Beautiful screen to the 11-yard line. That's a gain of 36.
Well, this is what you want. You want help for your young tackle. Right here, Brian Bulaga. Watch him take an inside set. Invite Ray Edwards to the outside, screen inside them. The last 2 games, the Cowboys and the Jets, both have been working those short, quick passes, a lot of screens, a lot of quick throws against the Vikings to avoid getting their quarterback hit by these pass rushes.
From the 11-yard line, waning seconds of the quarter. Jackson will take it to the 9. And in the quarter that ends in a 7-7 tie, Green Bay with 200 yards of total offense. 7-all at the break. Sunday Night Football continues after these messages. Speaking of venerable, the Hall of Famer, the great former Packer quarterback and coach, Bart Starr. In attendance tonight, comes back for a lot of games. Inducted back in '77.
A lot of good memories of that guy.
Oh, yeah. 2nd down and 8. The ball is at the 10-yard line. Green Bay going 3 by 1. 3 receivers to the left, and the pass is thrown over the middle and incomplete. Intended for Jennings. I referenced the fact that 200 yards of offense in that first quarter for the Green Bay Packers. And the reason it's only 7-7, they turned the ball over that one time, and right now they're knocking on the door here. 166 through the air.
But this has been an issue for this Packers team this year. 3rd down conversions. One of the best teams in the NFL a season ago. 2nd in the NFL, as a matter of fact, but not this year.
3rd down and sustaining and finishing drives. Long count. Rodgers protected well in the end zone. Touchdown, Green Bay. On a 3rd down play, Rodgers throwing right over the middle, and he's been on target all night. Andrew Quarles, the tight end. Jermichael Finley is gone, so this guy is going to have to play a much larger role in a Lambeau Leap for Andrew.
Sure was. There he goes right down the slot, and this was close, whether or not he was able to get his feet down. It looked like his backside hit before he went out of bounds, and that was a touchdown. Let's see. Bang, bang.
Juggle came away with it. Rookie out of Penn State, his first NFL score, makes it 14-7 Green Bay. Well, the Green Bay Packers, I think, got away with one. And we're going to take a look in a second at the juggling catch ruled a touchdown and no challenge is Percy Harvin, who had a big run back the last time. This time is a more conventional one back to the 25-yard line. Tom Crabtree makes the tackle and back to the touchdown that probably would have been overturned had it been challenged.
Yeah, watch Andrew Corliss here. If you are going to the ground in the process of making the catch or contact by a defender is made, you must maintain possession all the way to the ground. Clearly not. Incomplete pass. You could see the official was blocked by E.J. Henderson on the play. Never saw it. And you also saw Mike McCarthy hustle his extra point team out there, and it made a difference.
Right. His hands came off the ball, and once he kicked the extra point, end of story. From the 23 now. 1st and 10. Look at the 24-yard line. They begin this drive with Favre. Oh, almost had that one picked off by Tramon Williams, having a very good year. He tried to get it to Randy Moss, who's been blank so far tonight. In fact, that may be the first time they've been thrown to him.
And I don't even think you looked for this ball. Watch Randy Moss right out here. You know where he is. For 84. He's going to look, but then he's going to take his eyes off of Brett Favre. Zip. Yeah. You know, they haven't had a lot of time to work together. I think he thought it was one of those smoke throws to the outside. It wasn't, and that was almost a disastrous interception.
2nd and 10 with Toby Gerhart in the backfield, and they give it to the Stanford rookie, who is second in the Heisman balloting, and he picks up 11 yards and a 1st down.
Well, there is a lot of beef over there on that left-hand side. When you get Jim Kleinsasser out there, it's almost like having another tackle. And for Toby Gerhart, that's the kind of running he was used to doing at Stanford. And one of the reasons that they really liked him, there's Kleinsasser over there, one of the reasons they really liked Gerhart was because in Jim Harbaugh's offense at Stanford, it was very similar to what they run here, and they felt like he could pick this up quickly.
He and Albert Young vying for time as the 3rd down back and the backup to Peterson. Gerhart's won the job at least for tonight in that role. Young is inactive. And Favre moves up in the pocket, sliding, throws wide open at the Green Bay 40 is Bernard Berrien. And when you throw to Berrien, he doesn't drop any passes. They've just had a tough time getting together in sync, but you get it to Berrien, he will catch it. And for Bernard that time, the gain is 30, 1st down.
Watch the big guy out here, Phil Lodeholt, who has his hands full with the NFL's leading pass rusher, Clay Matthews. Great job there. Allowed Bernard Berrien to work way down the field. One of the things the Packers were afraid of, when Brett has the ability to buy a little extra time, he doesn't look short, he looks deep and goes for big plays.
Gerhart behind the left side of the line. Plugs his way for a gain of 2.
Yep, and we're seeing a lot of looks out of the Vikings here. Unbalanced line this time. This is Phil Lodeholt right over here on the end. So they've got the tight end the other way. Now you've got 2 big tackles, big pulling Steve Hutchinson out in front. And they make another gainer out of it. These two teams, they know each other awfully well, so there's going to be a few tricks and gimmicks in there. And we haven't seen a lot of Adrian Peterson here lately.
Haven't seen him since first couple of series, 2nd down and 8, when he had a helmet issue. Favre, play action, throws, caught, 20-yard line, Randy Moss. His first catch. Clay Matthews came in that time and really popped Favre, but he hung in there as he has for so many years and finds his man Moss.
Well, you're going to get Charles Woodson coming here and then Clay Matthews working inside. So it forced them to come outside to pick him up, which opened things up for Matthews. And finally, a shot on Favre. Last year, I think Clay Matthews had 1 hit on Favre, no sacks by the entire team in either game.
From the 20. Gerhart again. Tackled by Charles Woodson.
Well, Charles Woodson was the defensive player of the year a season ago, and the reason he is he can do exactly this. He plays like a linebacker. He can come up and fill. He can cover you one-on-one. He can play safety, but this is what makes him invaluable. One of the better tacklers coming out of the secondary in the NFL.
Now Peterson is back in the game on 2nd and 7. Tahi is the fullback. And Peterson inside the 15 to the 14-yard line. The Packer defense, #1 against the run last year, but because of the injuries, Nick Barnett is gone for the season, the linebacker. They're also juggling guys in the secondary. They hope to have Al Harris back active and maybe Atari Bigby later on. But Dom Capers has had to go to a more basic defense.
That's exactly right. He hasn't been able to play all his games that he typically likes to. Very multiple on the defensive side.
3rd and 3. Harvin. And with the defender falling down, Harvin diving for the end zone, in there for the touchdown. Got around the corner, slipped by the back who was sliding to the turf and goes in for the touchdown. And the crowd is looking at the replay and thinking it's not a touchdown.
Let's see whether or not he stayed in bounds or not. I tell you, that was a really good block inside by Bernard Berrien. Yeah, he's going to be out of bounds on about the 1.5-yard line. Foot down right there.
Yep.
Ball is not in the end zone. But I tell you, Percy Harvin, ever since Randy Moss got here, you can just see he's back in his role.
Green Bay is challenging the ruling on the field that it's a touchdown.
So they'll challenge, they'll probably win it, but it's still going to be a 1st down and goal with 10.5 to go in the half. For the moment, still 14-7. Scott Green has seen the evidence. We think the ball is going to be spotted at the 1.
After reviewing the play, the runner stepped out of bounds. The ball was dead at the 1.5-yard line. It'll be 1st down at the 1.5. Green Bay is not charged with a timeout.
So the Packers win the challenge. Still, it's 1st down and goal. When his foot steps out of bounds is where the ball is at that point. There it is, the 1.5 in the estimation of Scott Green, and that's where they'll spot the ball on 1st down. So Green Bay got away with a touchdown, which probably would have been overturned. Minnesota did not get away with a touchdown that gets overturned, but still 1st down and goal now. Peterson behind Tahi in the backfield. And they give it to AP, and he will go in over left guard and behind Tahi as well for the touchdown.
One of the problems that Packers have had is that they are so thin now with the big guys on the defensive line. They've had to take an offensive lineman, TJ Lang, and play him at defensive tackle. And you can tell he ain't not so good at that. Ends up on his back on that one. They really are hurting at that position. Just don't have the big guys right now because of injuries.
Ryan Longwell, who spent a long time in a Green Bay uniform, is a guy who's one of only a couple of guys to play 50 or more games with both the Packers and Vikings. Darren Sharper being the other, has tied the game. So Brett Favre, thinking about his legacy, this would appear to be his last year. He indicated as much in a conference call with the Green Bay press this week, but who knows? I would think, though, this is it, 20th year, and he hopes that, you know, down the line, and I think he's going to be right. They will come to, I guess, re-embrace him would be the term.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. You know, I mean, Vince Lombardi walked away from here, and
so did Curly
Lambeau walked away from here, and you see a lot of different colors of Brett Favre jerseys in here, there, don't you? You get the purple, you get the green, you get the white, and we even saw a black one in there for Brett Favre forever. But he's into it, and you get the feeling this game is going to be one of those kind of shootouts here. Perfect conditions, and these two quarterbacks are hot.
Well, what gets the fans crazy, of course, is that the Vikings or one of their two arch rivals, the other being the Chicago Bears. 15-yard line. Lee and Pat Lee will bring it back to the 45-yard line. So we were thinking about, you know, what would this be like if you were a fan of one team and let's say Larry Bird wore that uniform. Let's say Derek Jeter wore that uniform.
Blasphemy.
Michael Jordan could have wound up with the Knicks. John Elway. That's insult to injury today on a day when the Raiders went crazy. But in a way, I mean, that's what happened with Favre going to Minnesota.
Boy, how about Elway in a Raiders uniform? Somebody call an exorcist.
From the 44-yard line, Brandon Jackson moves that pile. Picks up about 4 tough yards. The Minnesota defense last year 6th in the league, 6th best in yards allowed, but giving up those 200 yards to the Packer offense in the first quarter. Leslie Frazier, assistant head coach and defensive coordinator, and a guy who's been interviewed 7 times for NFL head coaching positions.
And I think what's been surprising is how few sacks they've gotten this season after being one of the truly dominant teams a year ago.
2nd and 6. And Rodgers has that one caught a little behind Jennings. Yards shy of the first down. 3rd and 1. That sack rate, that Vikings defense, those 14 last year, 1 every 12 dropbacks last year. This year, 3rd from the bottom. In other words, against the opposing offenses, once every 29 and change of the dropbacks. And there it is. Pat Williams with no sacks. Kevin and Jared with 1. Ray Edwards on the other side. So that front 4 not getting the penetration they got last season. 3rd and 1. And that's caught by Jordy Nelson for a first down. Chris, one of the reasons maybe is that, you know, they haven't been teeing off a lot because they have been playing from behind almost all season.
They sure have. And you throw out that Lions game when they played with the lead for a good portion of that. And other than that, they have been behind. And this is a team that's a little bit like the Indianapolis Colts. When you say, I mean, they're built to have a lead. They're built to rush the passer. Not that they're not good against the run, but when they become devastating is when they can just go after your quarterback.
Well, they've got that the 4-man front, and of course the 2 ends in Indy with Freeney and Mathis, and the 2 ends here in Edwards and Allen. Gain of 3 for Brandon Jackson.
And for Jared Allen, here's a guy that has been one of the top pass rushers in the league the last 3 years, over 14 sacks, 14.5 each year with the Minnesota Vikings, and now he's gone 3 straight games without a sack, and that ties the longest streak of his career. But you can see what the Packers are doing to them. A lot of screens, a lot of draws, a lot of quick throws, and that's become the formula now for playing the Vikings.
The way I look at it, 1 sack equals what? Well, let's say 1 interception equals about 2 sacks, and he has a pick at least tonight.
There you go.
2nd and 7. And Rodgers is going to air it out deep and a little too deep. And that was Jennings looking for a flag. You had Frank Walker there. And Jennings reaching back, and I think he's trying to get the official's attention as if he's being held, but in effect he's reaching out and he's touching Walker.
Yeah, all the way out here on the outside. 1-on-1, and for Frank Walker, that's a tough assignment. That's a pretty good job right there. There's a little chicken fighting going on in there, but I really thought the key was watching Chad Clifton. They made up their mind that Chad Clifton was going to take Jared Allen tonight 1-on-1, and so far he has done a number on Jared Allen. Very few teams are willing to do that.
3rd and 7. And again, he does the job on him, and that time the pass is incomplete, and that was James Jones. Not on the same page here, so it's 4th down.
Yeah, I completely misread that one. It was one of those 2-man kind of coverages where Aaron Rodgers was going to try and throw it to the back shoulder, and James Jones was thinking front shoulder. He was going deep.
Now Mason Crosby, they're going to line up to attempt a 55-yard field goal. And now they break that formation. It's 4th and 7. They have Matt Flynn in the game. He's the backup quarterback. And they're going to run a play, and Flynn's going to go deep, and he's got a man open, but he falls down. Andrew Corliss, who had the touchdown earlier. He's out in front, has his man beat, and down to the turf he goes, and Minnesota gets the ball.
Unbelievable. Looked like a perfectly thrown ball.
Well, Mike McCarthy saw his team have the exact right play dialed up on 4th down, and then Quarles falls down.
Just unbelievable. This was a perfectly thrown ball. A little pressure from Jared Allen. You know, sometimes nerves will do that to you, and you get a young player who's not used to that kind of a moment, and his legs just buckled on him.
Give it and take it. Quarles got away with a non-challenged touchdown, which probably would have been overturned, and then falls down on a 4th down play here. That's a 5-yard gain for Adrian Peterson as we go under 7 minutes to play in the half.
Well, one of the things the Vikings wanted to find out early was how Clay Matthews was doing. He's had a pulled hamstring, missed the Dolphins game last week, and they felt like if they saw a little hesitation in him because of that hamstring, they wanted to beat on him a little bit in the running game, so they may keep going in that direction.
2nd and 5. On a draw with Peterson. Desmond Bishop, number 55, a guy who will see a lot of action this season because of that injury to Nick Barnett, makes the tackle.
You know, they're playing some games on the outside with Randy Moss. They're trying to make it look like single coverage, but there still is a safety up over the top here. They're trying to bait Brett Favre into taking his shot down the field, and see plenty of distance there, 16 yards deep and backing, because the one thing you don't want from Randy Moss is for him to take the lid off your defense.
3rd and a long 2 from the 44-yard line. Favre, pump fake, throws, a bullet caught at the 44-yard line by Schenko, and that's a 1st down.
Well, you called that one right. Off balance, falling away like a Kobe Bryant jump shot, and he just ripped that one in there. I think his elbow is feeling okay.
41 years old and tendonitis.
Oh, watch this one. He's going to be falling off to his left and just rip one to his right. I'll tell you what, that's pretty good for an old guy right there.
For anybody.
Yep.
Moss and Harvin both split left. Here comes Harvin. He's going to carry again. Harvin inside the 40, and Harvin has another 1st down and gets thrown out of bounds late. That's Nick Collins, and it's going to be a flag, and Collins is saying no way.
Well, first of all, it was a brilliant call, because they had everybody on the Packers defense flying to the right, and I'm not sure that was a late hit. It was close.
No, me neither, because it's full speed.
Personal foul, late hit, out of bounds, 15-yard penalty, 1st down.
I mean, you're talking about Percy Harvin. This isn't Brett Favre running to the sideline. You better get there, or else he's going to turn the corner on you. And Nick Collins is running for all he's worth, trying to make sure he's the last line of defense. I probably would have taken, let's see. I think he's in bounds when contact is made. I think you have to give a defender that one.
Hadn't stepped out. I agree with you. Ball at the 17-yard line, 1st down. Fake draw. Far to the end zone, reaching out for it, catching it, Schenko, touchdown. Peterson throws a block. What a beautifully designed play.
Well, and it's due to the fact that Randy Moss is on the field. Despite the fact they're trying to disguise that it's single coverage, on the outside, Randy Moss is going to have a safety work over the top, which meant that Schenko had nobody in the middle of the field. Brett Favre sees it. Schenko gives him the hook. And it's a touchdown. And now I think McCarthy, because you could see that ball sliding just a little bit, is going to challenge this one.
And now McCarthy.
Green Bay is challenging the ruling on the field that it is a completed pass for a touchdown.
He's already won a challenge, so he gets a challenge, and the only way he gets another challenge is if he wins this one. So McCarthy challenges what would be a Schenko touchdown. Years ago, Bert Emanuel was the guy. There was a huge play in an NFC championship game, St. Louis and Tampa Bay, about the ball hitting the ground as the receiver has possession all the way to the ground and through the ground here. So we don't see enough to overturn this based on the fact that they did change that rule a number of years ago.
And it was exactly like that, with the point of the ball outside of his hands. But because he never lost control of the football, I'll be very surprised if this one gets overturned. But I've been surprised a few times in the past, too.
Right. So McCarthy, the NFL averaged a 43% success rate on challenges. Again, because he challenged one before, he still has 2 remaining unless he loses the next one, which this one would be. In other words, if he loses this challenge, not only is it a touchdown, he doesn't have a challenge for the rest of the game.
But you saw with the naked eye what he saw, which was the ball hit the ground, and almost 90% of the time when that happens, there is some sort of bobble.
After reviewing the play, the receiver did not have possession of the ball. He used the ground to help make the catch. It'll be 2nd down and 10 on the 17-yard line. Green Bay is not charged with a timeout.
Used the ground to keep possession, or help his possession.
Well, the ball is going to slide a bit when it hits the ground. But if that isn't possession, you can't have possession of the ball. So there you go. I don't see it.
And neither does Brad Childress. So McCarthy wins another challenge, still has 1 remaining. Back we go to a 1st down at the 17-yard line. And now you have Peterson. And Peterson will take the ball to the 10-yard line.
And for Vasant Schenko, his new name that we've learned, that was sort of typical of the way his season has gone. 11 touchdowns a season ago and just 1 this year.
So that was a 2nd down play after the incomplete pass. A 7-yard gain to the 10-yard line, making it 3rd down and 3. Gerhardt, 3rd down back, comes into the game. Favre from the shotgun. Greg Camarillo in the game in motion. Favre will go to his right, and the pass is out of the reach of Toby Gerhardt, who went for it with his right hand, one-handed, incomplete. So the challenge saves a touchdown and makes Vikings settle for a field goal attempt.
I think Brett was expecting this little arrow back inside, and Gerhardt stayed outside, and that's what happens when you don't have one guy practicing with you day after day after day. You make mistakes like that one. That was a big mistake on 3rd down.
28-yard attempt. Man, Longwell bangs that one through. So a tick under 4 minutes to play now in the opening half. And Minnesota on top by a score of 17-14.
People are pretty good people around here, too, aren't they? I mean, they are football fans through and through, but so nice and friendly, boy. They are happy when you're in town, and they love to sit around and talk football and some other stuff, too. There's a little different look for the molded cheese on that one.
We're back here in 2 weeks on Sunday night. Cowboys will be in town. 7-yard line. Pat Lee. And he gets taken down up at the 27-yard line. Heath Farwell with the stop.
No question, the storyline for me thus far is Aaron Rodgers' protection. Last year in 2 games against the Vikings, he was sacked 14 times. This year, the game plan much different. Getting the ball out of his hand a little quicker, still working it down the field on occasion, but a lot of screens, a lot of draws, a lot of quick throws. And the fact that Chad Clifton and Brian Balaga are in there blocking, and it's not backups like it was in both games a season ago.
What a difference. Those numbers right there. Clean jersey for Rogers. Stepping away, buying time, underneath. Jackson, 11-yard gain and a first down.
You know, last week I was watching Aaron Rodgers, and he was coming off the week with a concussion. And I thought he was a little too fast in the game. He ran into a couple of sacks. He looked like it was bothering him a little bit, and I guess it would bother anybody. But tonight you can see him, the pace of play has slowed down a little bit. His decision-making is a little more methodical, and it's really made a difference.
And he's guided this team to 239 yards of total offense from the 39. And that pass is incomplete, and Stroud will get the flag. Official dropped the flag at his feet, then had to pick it up and throw it again. And Frank Walker with the coverage and the probable penalty.
Holding, defense, number 41. 5-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Well, they keep trying to go to that back shoulder throw, and there's no doubt they've been working on Frank Walker over there almost all night long. See if he gets a little grab as Jones tries to peel out of this on a back shoulder throw. Right there is what they're going to call, but that's a pretty tough call too. Not sure that ball was catchable anyway where it was.
From the 44. That's caught over the middle and into Minnesota territory as Andrew Quarles makes the catch. How important is this game for Green Bay? I think Rodgers summed it up pretty well the other day. He said, hey, you know what? We need a win to get the coaches to relax.
And there's nothing better than relaxed coaches. I tell you, when it gets uptight and but they lose 3 out of 4, and all of a sudden this Super Bowl favorite, everybody's choice to win it all, is all of a sudden looking pretty mediocre after some last-minute losses.
Yeah, with Minnesota in town tonight, and then they go to the Jets next week. 2nd and 3. And that's thrown behind Greg Jennings. And Jennings saying, well, wait a minute, what play was that?
I mean, these are not even close. These are wild pitches here between these guys, and they work on this stuff a lot. But I mean, the last couple of those back shoulder throws haven't been within 10 yards.
Rodgers now 11 of 16 for 205, 3rd and 3. They convert. This time he's right on the money. Forget about the back shoulder. Just put it between the 8 and the 5.
And another 3rd down conversion, and that is making a huge difference for the Packers tonight over their last few games.
2-minute warning. All 3 timeouts available for both teams. 17-14 Vikings. First and 10. Green Bay at the Viking 38-yard line. Wow. Yeah, I tell you what, when he's been off, he's been way off.
You know, these are his normal receivers too, and you would expect this to be relatively easy stuff. He already passed up a really wide open right in front of him, Donald Lee, that would have put him in field goal range. They probably are in field goal range anyway, with Crosby at least having a shot from here, but you certainly are thinking another 6-7 yards at least.
2nd and 10. Dumps it off. Lee dives, and forward progress should net him a first down, and will inside the 30.
Well, this is the same look they did earlier in the ball game. Again, it looks like Donald Lee, who does a lot of blocking, a lot of chipping, comes down, and then he just sort of slides to the outside there, and they get the entire offensive line out in front of him, and it's been a nice night for Donald Lee. That time, Aaron Rodgers, a little look away, forced Chad Greenway to sprint off to the right, and then they threw back to where he was.
2 passes tonight for Lee. From the 27. Fake inside handoff, and then that pass is batted. So that's Jared Allen, who on the first Green Bay drive of the night had an interception, batting this one away. And he's a funny guy, and he says something that gets Rodgers to laugh.
Well, he didn't rush the passer that time. He just sat there, and I think that Chad Clifton's done such a good job on him. When he saw Rodgers take that quick set, he said, well, all right, if I'm not going to get a sack, I'm going to at least give you a headache here.
Second and 10. Not one ball tonight, interestingly, has been thrown to Donald Driver. Rodgers looked that way this time. Now he goes the other way. Now he goes to the end zone, and it's deflected, and Williams winds up with the deflection and the interception. So Walker got a hand on it. The pass intended for Jennings, and then coming down with it before stepping out of bounds, Mediu Williams for the pick.
Just a horrible decision that time by Aaron Rodgers. No other way to put it. You're going to get Frank Walker. They've got safety help over the top. The battle, maybe a late push down the field. But there it is for Aaron Rodgers. He tries to force one down there when he was already in field goal range. And Frank Walker, let's give him credit. He comes in off the bench. Frank Walker with a late push. He's making plays and big ones.
Yeah, they're working on him. They took Cook out of the game, put Walker in. And a big deflection leading to the pick. Rodgers throws his second interception, and now Peterson for a gain of 3, and Minnesota has all of its timeouts. And they use one right here. So, of course, a couple of very key plays. One was this one, which wound up as a touchdown, not challenged. Could have been, probably would have been overturned. Then you got Shanko on what could have been ruled either way, and that was ruled no touchdown because Scott Green went under the hood, and he said he used the ground to help him control the football. So that cost them 7, and they had to settle for 3.
And really the two other plays that you have to talk about are Aaron Rodgers throwing interceptions in the red zone where they had opportunities to put points on the board. So you figure probably at least 2 field goals out of that, and they'd be up 20-17 right now.
That timeout was taken by Green Bay. So even though it's a 4-yard gain, 2nd down and 6, Green Bay trying to get the ball back. 2nd and 6, they took the timeout. Minnesota has all of its timeouts. The ball on the 24-yard line. Now you got Peterson. And Peterson up to the 35-yard line.
And now let's see if the Vikings take a timeout.
Yeah, and they will.
Yeah, sometimes you play those games, and now all of a sudden you give it over to the Vikings to work from the 35. It probably would have just run out the clock if they're backed up to their own 20, but now they're out there a little less dangerous territory, and so that's the game you play.
Yeah, that's why I was a little surprised that, originally I thought it was a timeout by Minnesota, and all of a sudden, it's a 2nd and 6. You're kind of in no man's land. An interesting choice to call the TO there, but they do, and it's a break for Minnesota because it saves them a timeout.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mike McCarthy's frustrated out there. His team has been in scoring position. They've given a couple away. Got to be happy with the way they're moving the ball up and down the field, but it's kind of gone like this the last few games for the Green Bay Packers. They just end up beating themselves with penalties or mistakes.
43 ticks, ball at the 34. Four-man rush. Favre escapes. Favre going deep downfield for Moss. He lays it up there, and Moss makes the catch. And a flag goes down at the end of the play. It was Moss and Nick Collins, and Moss using that body to get position, but the Packers applauding, so it looks like, at least for the moment, pending the call here by Green. It's coming back.
Interference, offense, number 84. 10-yard penalty, first down.
Well, I'm not sure it really impacted the play so much, but Randy Moss puts both hands on the back of Nick Collins, and you can see him does get pushed off the ball a little bit. Good call by the officials, and for Randy Moss, and especially for Mike McCarthy, a big sigh of relief here over what Randy just did.
Good call. It's one way to get separation.
Yep. Well, veteran receivers, and why not? You're sitting there with a chance to flip the field.
And sometimes you get away with it. 1st and 20. Now Peterson. And Peterson takes it out to the 37-yard line. And what do the Vikings want to do here? They're letting the clock run.
Yeah, Randy Moss has his arms out like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Let's go.
But instead, whoa, yeah, he doesn't like, he says, hey, come on, we have timeouts. Why don't we use them here?
Yeah.
What are we doing sitting on the lead? It's an interesting call here because, I mean, if nothing else, lob up another one and see what Moss can do.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Randy's right. 17-14 is our halftime score. Good first half at Lambeau. Brett Favre in that first half was 6 out of 11 for 70 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. And he'll wait on the sideline because Green Bay is going to get the ball first here in the second half as Ryan Longwell's boot taken by Pat Lee at the 7-yard line. And Lee comes up the middle to the 30-yard line, and let's get an update from Andrea.
Well, Al, I asked Brad Childress why he let the clock run out at the end of the first half. He said they wanted to take one shot, which they did, the deep ball. He said they got pass interference. Green Bay still had 2 timeouts. That was it for him. As for Mike McCarthy, asked him about the miscommunication there appears to be between Aaron Rodgers and his receivers, particularly on back shoulder throws. He admitted that the quarterback and the receivers were reading things differently. They must make their adjustments. He said the one matchup they have to take advantage of, Frank Walker.
Well, they tried to take advantage of Walker, Andrea, at the end of the half, and Walker was able to tip it, and Williams intercepted it. Rodgers on first down has that one tipped and almost picked again. Kevin Williams, the defensive tackle right there. And earlier, of course, you had the interception by the other defensive lineman, Jared Allen, and another near pick here by a DL.
And you see the change in strategy now for the Vikings. They're not getting there, so they're just getting some separation from these linemen and jumping up and knocking down these short, quick throws. It's a pretty good idea. They're getting the ball out of their hands so quickly. Little change in defensive strategy, and it's working.
6'5" Williams, no stranger, batting away passes. And this is Jackson for a gain of 8. Be 3rd and 2.
And this is the story that Andrea was talking about. Some of these back shoulder throws that almost come off as fairly routine in the NFL anymore, and especially with the Packers, they use this a lot. And you can see, I mean, it's not like they're missing it a little bit. They're just not even close to knowing what the other one's doing. And those are guys that he's used to working with. And you take that as well with the fact that Donald Driver has the quad injury, and things are a little offbeat right now.
They haven't even targeted Driver tonight. Rolling right, buying time, going deep, and incomplete. And that time Asher Allen is back there blanketing James Jones. It'll be 4th down.
Well, it's a pretty good read that time. That little bootleg action actually drew the safety to the middle of the field, so they had one-on-one. They go the double move on the outside, but look at Asher Allen. He is in perfect position, just pins James Jones into the sideline, and then you see the safety going over the top the other way, Tyrell Johnson. There's Asher Allen by himself.
Tim Mastay with the first punt of the night for Green Bay. Rick Camarillo came over from Miami at the outset of the season, brings it back to the 23-yard line. And that's where Favre and company go to work with a 3-point Minnesota lead in Lambeau. Minnesota's first offensive play of the half. Favre, short drop, throws, and it's caught. And this is Percy Harvin up to the 45-yard line. Big night for Percy, that big run back in the first quarter, helping to set up his own touchdown at the end of that drive. And here's a 20-yard gain.
Pretty formidable pair out here when you've got Percy Harvin and Randy Moss. Moss is going to go first. Woodson jumped that, so you just go to Percy Harvin in behind it. And I'll tell you, those two guys have become pretty dynamic since Randy Moss has come over.
Peterson cutting it back. Harvin was the guy in preseason. He had all of those headache issues, and it's been a recurring thing for him, the migraine headaches, but it seems to have settled down. Whatever they're doing right now with him seems to be working. Right now he's giving Green Bay the headaches.
Yeah, he really is, and this is a guy that can do so many things. We saw the kickoff return for a touchdown a week ago. We've seen him motion into the backfield, play running back, but he is most comfortable in that slot position. He did not play well when he was the outside receiver.
From the 46 on first down. Or make a second down and 8 after the Peterson 2-yard run. 2nd and 8. And that's a little bit behind Percy, but he makes the catch, the ball at the 49. Now Pepra makes the tackle.
You know, and before and during timeouts, you're seeing Randy Moss coaching these young guys up over there. You know, not much Randy Moss hasn't seen. It was kind of interesting. Brett Favre talking about Randy Moss, and Randy was coaching him on how to throw the deep ball. He said, put a little air under that one, Brett, and he'd come back and say, that's too much air underneath that one, Brett. Said, what do you want? Give me a break.
Look at this set. Those 4 receivers set at the bottom of the screen. They go 4 by 1. Favre almost gets sacked, gets it away, and then has it intercepted at the 40-yard line by A.J. Hawk. And Hawk out of bounds at the 40. And Favre comes up gimpy. He got hit by Brad Jones as he released, almost sacked.
Well, of course, remember, Brett, with the ankle injury that he's had, and that time Jones falls right on the back of his leg as he's throwing it, and instead of the ball coming out to his left, it goes right to A.J. Hawk, who comes up big. But I tell you, that was an opportunity. Brett bought enough time. I thought Randy Moss was available down the field for a big one if he had seen it.
And Brett getting some assistance to get off the field and hunched over on the sideline.
Well, that reminds you of the championship game a little, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. From the 41-yard line. Jackson. So with Favre, the issue was the ankle at the beginning of the year. Then it became the elbow, and now it appears to be back to the left ankle.
Well, no doubt about it. That's the one that he's had all the issues with, and they thought they'd finally kind of gotten over that. And now you start looking over and you wonder if Tavares Jackson might actually get his opportunity.
Meanwhile, Favre buying time and also looking at the pictures. Multitasking over there. 2nd down and 7. The ball's at the 38-yard line. They give it to John Kuhn.
Well, and don't forget, this is in all likelihood Brett Favre's final game here at Lambeau Field, and you know he doesn't want to go out with an injury, and that's almost hard to imagine that he would, short of not being able to stand up and walk around. We've seen him so many times come back from injury after injury and continue to play, and he doesn't even look like he wants to talk to a trainer over there.
No, and Jackson's not throwing because that's almost sacrilegious.
Yeah.
3rd and 5 from the 36. Rodgers slides to buy time, and by so doing it, he is able to have James Jones spring free across the middle of the field for a first down.
I'm going to tell you what, this is as good a pass protection as you're going to see by the Green Bay Packers. Chad Clifton on the outside, perfect. Brian Balaga on the other side, a little bit of help, but jammed him good so well that Ray Edwards just backed off and looked to knock it down. And you give a guy like Aaron Rodgers that much time, you're going to pay a price.
First out of the 19-yard line. Whoa, man. Jordy Nelson stopped and then had to reach ahead, and Winfield is there to tackle him immediately.
Yeah, one of those rare times, two backs in the backfield, and talk about mistimed. That ball was thrown right towards Antoine Winfield. They're really lucky that wasn't picked off. Watch him stop short. Rodgers thinks he's going on up the field, and luckily for them, Winfield was leaning back just a bit and couldn't break on that one.
2nd and 5. And it's caught by Jennings for a touchdown. Jennings lined up outside, driver in the slot. The interception, and then the drive, 41 yards in 5 plays.
Oh, look at that move on the outside by Greg Jennings. In, out, and got him. And Aaron Rodgers knew all the time where he was going with that one. That was big time.
Crosby's extra point, and Green Bay has the lead again with 8:44 remaining in the third. The Packers 21 and the Vikings 17 on Sunday Night Football. Greg Jennings for the touchdown. It's 21-17 Green Bay. And now we'll watch when Favre comes back after limping off the field, and that's Kleinsasser who has to cover it up on the ground ball kick, and he falls on it at the 20. So Brett coming back down by 4. With those numbers thus far tonight, 8 of 14 from 94 yards to a pick on his last pass from the 21-yard line. Peterson's going to cut it back. Gain of 3. Andrew down near the Viking bench. Andrew, what'd they do to Favre during the break?
Well, actually, after he limped off the field, he was on the bench looking at the pictures. The trainer sat down next to him. Favre just waved him off. In fact, when Favre was standing up, every time the trainer even came next to him, Favre ignored him. He had no medical attention on that ankle.
Well, he's only done it for 20 years. No matter what it's been, indestructible.
Yeah, wouldn't it be interesting if the only thing to knock him out of a game would be the commissioner?
Yeah. 2nd down and 6 from the 25-yard line. Favre pulls it back, and then he throws an interception again. And this time it is Desmond Bishop to the end zone. Touchdown, Packers.
Now, one thing Brett's made a living doing is buying time, getting his body in weird positions and making throws. You just wonder with this ankle kind of falling away from this thing, not able to move the way that he typically does, and Desmond Bishop makes him pay big. And you think they love it here in Green Bay? Welcome home, Brett.
32nd time Brett has thrown a pick 6 in his career. He's got every record, including that one. Extra point is good, and the Green Bay lead is now its largest of the night, 11. Another short kick, and this time it's fielded Up at the 40-yard line, Jasper Brinkley, one of the backup linebackers, to the 42-yard line. And here comes Favre again after throwing another interception. This one returned for a touchdown.
Yeah, and here's Randy Moss. And if you've ever seen any tape on Randy Moss, you know that these are some of the routes he runs. Doesn't get open initially, sort of wanders around a little bit, and not expecting the ball, and his quarterback throws a pick. And that's why you have to be frenetic as a wide receiver. You have to hustle at all times. You have to work to get open. Randy Moss did not there.
And Bishop now a starter with the injury to Barnett, which will cost him the rest of the season. Adrian Peterson to the 47. Talked about that being the 32nd time Brett has thrown what's referred to as a pick six. You've had 9 interception returns for a touchdown today, the most on one day in NFL history. And D'Angelo Hall had one in that game against Chicago for Washington. One of 4 interceptions for Hall today. 2nd and 5. And AP again. One of the milestones for Favre, that's almost every pass he throws is something. So he's now gone over 70,400 yards. Why is that a milestone? Well, if you know your math, that's 40 miles. 40 miles of bad road.
Maybe a mile or so the other way, too.
Right. That's right. 40 minus a mile. 3rd and 1. Defense wants him to pump it up. Gerhardt is the back. Fake to him. Ton of time. Favre going deep over the middle. Caught by Harvin. And Percy to the 11-yard line. So on 3rd and 1, down the field they go. Woodson makes the tackle. 1st down.
Well, that one got everybody. Nick Collins, one of the really good safeties. He's coming up. Other safety Peppers coming up. They're going to play. They're going to sell out for the run. Brett said thank you very much, and nobody's running with Percy Harvin, not even the defensive player of the year a season ago. No help inside, no contest.
Harvin now 4 catches, 58 yards, 3 runs for 41 yards. Run the stretch play with Peterson. Can't get around the corner. Collins comes up to stick him.
You know, that big play was something a little unusual for Brett Favre this season. 13 pass plays over 40 yards last year, 0 so far this season. And that one was right around that border. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but the big play desperately needs to come back to this offense.
His longest pass this season, 37 yards. 2nd down and 12 with the ball at the 14, and that is caught over the middle, and the catch is made by Jim Kleinsaucer. 12th year as a Viking, tackled by A.J. Hawk.
I'll tell you, the other thing that I've noticed out here tonight is that with the return of John Sullivan at the center position, this offensive line for the Vikings seems much more settled than what they've been the last few weeks. He's been struggling with a calf injury. They've been playing John Cooper. But it's tough to judge an offensive line without their center, and they look much better tonight than they have.
3rd and 2. Favre throws, caught, Moss walks in for the touchdown. Randy Moss. He and Harvin work well together.
Yeah, Percy Harvin really made that touchdown. It's a pick that's not a pick. You come out here, you run them into Randy Moss's defenders, just clear a little space. There you go. Send your thank you note, Randy. On the outside, just gets Woodson to bite enough. Really no pick whatsoever. Did a nice job underselling that one.
Longwell for the point after. The last time Moss scored a touchdown in this building, it was that famous virtual mooning to the crowd. This time he simply hands the ball to the official. 28-24, Green Bay. Here's Lee. And down he goes at the 23-yard line. Rolling right, Rogers throws, and Nelson makes the catch along the sideline. He picks up 8 yards. It'll be 2nd down and 2.
You know, and for Aaron Rodgers, he's having a few laughs out there. But for Brett Favre, that was an impressive drive. I mean, let's just tell it like it is. He throws a pick, thing goes in the other way, and it looks like maybe you've worked your team out of a chance to win the game and take them immediately back down the field with a huge 3rd and 1 call. And let's give Darrell Bevel a little credit on that one. That's really what set up the touchdown.
504 career touchdown passes now for Brett Favre. Give it to Kuhn. And John Kuhn at 6 feet and 259 pounds picks up the 1st down.
Well, if you want me to name an MVP so far in this game, I'm taking Chad Clifton. He tonight was asked to block one of the great pass rushers in the game, Jared Allen, one-on-one all night long, and he has been simply sensational as he's been the last few weeks. Jared Allen did make the 1 interception, but it wasn't because Chad Clifton didn't have him blocked. Big night.
11 years in the league. Chad Clifton was the left tackle for Peyton Manning for a spell at Tennessee. Rodgers going deep. Nelson was there, but the pass thrown out of bounds.
Everybody stopped on the play. I mean, it was the defense stopped and Jordy Nelson stopped. And if he had kept going, I think he might have had this one. I think because Aaron Rodgers was scrambling around, you see he's going to kind of sit there. I gotta slow down now. Okay, now it's going to take off. And you throw it out of bounds. And for Tyrell Johnson, who's filling in tonight for Hussein Abdullah, they have not been able to victimize him much. A little bit here and there, but he's made plays.
2nd and 10. Big hole over the left side for Jackson. And before he can be tackled by Williams, he picks up a 1st down.
That's a pretty good job right there by the left guard, if I saw it correctly, Darren College. You got Darren College coming out and getting a block on the outside, but Scott Wells locking up inside on Jimmy Kennedy. And Jimmy Kennedy getting into play tonight much more because he's a pass rusher than a run player, but so far Green Bay able to run the ball at least decently.
Kuhn to the 50-yard line. Well, Jackson tonight, 10 carries, 53 yards, a 5.3 per tote. And they picked up a total of 72 yards running the ball. You know, this is in the NFC North. I'm just thinking this has to be one of those races that's going to go down to the last weekend.
Yeah, and these are probably the 2 most talented teams, wouldn't you say? I know Chicago is sitting there in first place, but as you look at these 2 teams, you watch them play a season ago, I still have the feeling the battle and the winner is probably coming out of one of these 2.
I agree. 2nd down and 6. The ball is at the 50-yard line. And Jackson this time gets bottled up right at the 50. Speaking of the NFC North, just to refresh here, Chicago got off to a real good start this season, but lost today, makes them 4-3. Green Bay 3-3 coming into this one. Vikings have already had their bye week. 2-3. They go to New England next week, so that means Moss goes back to Foxborough, and Detroit 1-5. The Packers go to face the Jets next week in the Meadowlands. 3rd down, 5. Rodgers, buying time again. Trying to get the 1st down with his feet. Real close. They're going to spot him, I think, a little short. Antoine Winfield got there, and he appears to be inches shy of the 1st down.
Yeah, it's where his knee hit. Oh, his knee didn't really hit. I thought maybe his knee had dropped down. Let's take a look at this thing now. He's going to extend the ball, and really he doesn't hit down until his hip hits the ground. Tough to tell from that angle.
Yeah, it's tough to tell. They can challenge. It's the end of the quarter. They'll take a look. If they don't give them the first down, which they haven't, it's going to be a 4th down coming up. Good game, 28-24, end of 3. Sunday Night Football resumes after these messages. A lot of interesting stuff happening right here. He's short of the first down. We've been looking at it during the commercial break. Here's the look. When his elbow's down, that's where the ball should be spotted, just short of the 44-yard line. Now they're going to turn it around because it's the end of the quarter. They're still going to be short. He probably wouldn't have won the challenge. He might have gained a few more inches, but it's 4th and 1. They're going to line up at least to go for it. Will they? On 4th and 1, they will. They give it to Kuhn, and can he, with his second effort, get the first down? And he does.
Boy, was that lucky right there.
Woo.
He
and
runs
big.
He runs right into the back of Andrew Corliss, who is going to stop him. Going to come looping right in here, and you'll see Kuhn just hit him right in the back. And somehow he just fights for that first down. That's as big a play as he's made all season right there. You turn that thing over to Brett Favre on the 44-yard line, you got issues.
In a 4-point game. Ball is at the 43. Jackson. Number 39, 4th quarter in Green Bay. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer. Back and forth we go.
If you've never done it, if you've never come here, put it on the bucket list.
If you love the NFL, you have to, at some point, show up here. 2nd down and 5 with 3 backs behind Rodgers. Little dump pass to Brandon Jackson, and Chad Greenway is right there to stop him. So now another big 3rd down, 3rd and 6.
Well, it's really been the difference in the ball game tonight for Aaron Rodgers, a team that had struggled mightily the last couple of games on 3rd down, a couple of overtime losses. Tonight, they've made these plays.
Third and 6. Interesting set here. Leverage in the backfield. Protection. Rodgers has time. Throws. Catch. Now where is forward progress? Jennings had to come back, and he does not have enough with the naked eye for a first down. There's Childress right there. And you're going to probably have another, the way it looks right now, another 4th and inches coming up.
Well, it's going to be about when do they blow the whistle? When is forward progress stopped? You know, and it's just one of those calls, you know, where you're going to mark it. But he got no benefit of the doubt whatsoever. I would say the contact was made right there, obviously. And he never makes any forward motion at all, never fights forward for the ball. I think that's ball is on the other side of the first down marker where forward progress is stopped.
Again, it's challengeable if they're short of the first down. So McCarthy could, if he wishes, challenge it, and I think they're going to be a couple of links shy, and they are. So now, if you're McCarthy, you still have that one challenge. He's won 2 challenges already tonight, so he still has a 3rd. Do you want to do it here? Do you take the chance here?
Well, he certainly looks like he's going to go for it. You know,
he just may make his chances of making it again.
Well, maybe so, but where contact was made and where forward progress was stopped, it looked to me clearly on the other side of the ball. Now, maybe they're saying it doesn't count until you blow the whistle, but I think it's where forward progress is.
But it's an iffy proposition if you're going to get those extra inches on the challenge. Meanwhile, they'll just line up to go for it again on 4th down and inches. Dimitri Nance is the running back. And they give it to the up back, and this time Kuhn gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage. So he made it on 4th down. on the last series of downs, and this time the Vikings are certainly have stopped him.
Well, and what McCarthy's saying is let the play itself out, that he was never down, and like he did the last time, he keeps fighting, he keeps pushing, and then you're going to see Kuhn come out of the pile with what looks like somewhere close to the first down.
And again, it's challengeable, but I don't know how I don't know how the officials overrule their call on the field.
Well, because if they blew the whistle at any point in this thing, it would have been down there. But I would argue as well that it looked like he was still moving in the pile, but the whistles were blowing.
He loses about 2/3 of a yard.
When really the challenge should have come on the prior play.
Right. Minnesota ball. What a game. From the 34, first down. After Green Bay turns it over on downs. Adrian Peterson to the outside he goes. First down all the way to the 50-yard line. Finally stopped there by Woodson after a gain of 16.
Well, you just see great patience on the part of Peterson as Herrera pulls around and makes this block. Peterson, they've worked so hard with him. A, hold on to the football better, but B, go a little slower. Just take your time. Let the block play itself out a little bit, and then use your great speed, and you saw it there.
AP 20 carries for 98 yards, and now he'll get to the century mark, and look at those legs, and that churning all the way to the 41-yard line.
Well, I tell you, this is in part what gets him in trouble with the fumbling, but it is also part of who he is. This guy will never quit on a play. I mean, these are linebackers and defensive linemen tugging and pulling on him, and he pushes the whole pile of them forward.
And he's one of those guys that gets better the more carries he has. He's been more proficient after he carries the ball 10, 12 times a game.
Well, he just drove A.J. Hawk 4 or 5 yards down the field.
Got 9. It's 21 totes for 107 yards. And more to come. First down. Got to the 37.
And you have to wonder now, is this Packers defensive line getting a little bit worn down? We saw it against the Miami Dolphins a week ago. They don't have depth inside. So some guys like B.J. Raji and Cullen Jenkins and some of those guys are having to play a lot of snaps. There you see C.J. Wilson in there, who's playing for Ryan Pickett, but he gives about 40 pounds away to what they typically have in there on the defensive line.
Gerhardt is the back. Colby gets it. The Stanford rookie picks up close to 3. Hit by C.J. Wilson. 2nd and 7.
Well, because you've got the nickel in there now, and there you have really no choice, you're seeing now some blitzes coming off the edge, just 2 down linemen in the game, so they're just going to have to hold up. And that time, C.J. Wilson, instead of overpowering his guy, slipped in the back door and made the play.
Second and 7. Favre pressured, slings it away, and the pass is incomplete. That was Clay Matthews, had him by the shirt, nearly had the sack, and Brett able to get it downfield.
The Fahutai, the fullback, did everything but grab and twist and pull. He's going to grab some jersey, a little face mask, and so did Clay Matthews, and sling him to the ground. There he is, the NFL sack leader. Who's yet to get one here tonight, but almost had one for Brett. And for Brett, every time you see him throw one like that, oh baby.
There's Dad, Clay Jr., the grandfather, Clay the first, also a former NFLer with San Francisco. 3rd and 7, far back, far over the middle. Favre has it picked off. Collins intercepts it at the 20-yard line. Back and forth we go. 28-24, Green Bay. Brett Favre, who threw only 7 picks all of last year, had 7 this season coming in. 3 interceptions in his last 7 pass attempts, including that one by Collins, which gives Green Bay the ball at its own 23 with 9:18 to go. And Brandon Jackson will get stuffed at the line of scrimmage by Chad Greenway, and back we go to the interception by Collins.
Well, Percy Harvin here has got to do one of 2 things. He's either got to drive his defender deep and then come back to the ball, or go fast across the middle, because Nick Collins, when you're just drifting through the hole here, Nick Collins doesn't have to worry about anything deep. Randy Moss is kind of slowly coming out of his break as well. So Nick Collins said, to heck with that. I'm just going to drive on this because nobody's threatening me deep. Poor route running by both.
2nd and 11. And that pass is incomplete, and that's the first time tonight they have targeted Donald Driver on a pass.
Well, and Donald Driver's dealing with a quad pull, and I've watched Donald Driver for a lot of years, and he's not himself tonight. He's out there doing the best that he can and trying to suck it up and play for his team, but he just doesn't have the same explosiveness that I've seen.
I caught a pass in 133 consecutive games and counting. So that streak in jeopardy. Longest in franchise history. 3rd and 11. Rodgers stepping up, buying time, throws, caught. Jennings, first down. Great pocket presence, steps up. Jennings gets free over the middle. It's a wobbly ball, but it's right on target. Moves the chains.
Yeah, Donald Driver cleared out the space, and Jennings came in behind him. But watch Aaron Rodgers. He makes the play. Good protection up front. They pass off the stunt. Aaron Rodgers with a hook shot for a first down. Look at this one. That was all he had on that one.
Up to the 37. Under 8 minutes left. Nelson. Jordy Nelson to the 42-yard line.
And you just can't emphasize enough the loss of Jermichael Finley. And when you talk to Aaron Rodgers, he said, without question, we've got a lot of star players that are hurt out there, but Jermichael Finley was special. He was the guy, the deep threat from the tight end position down the field, the possession guy on 3rd down, had a very infectious personality. It brought a lot of energy to practice, and he said, you just can't replace a guy like that.
A rising star, but gone for the year. 2nd and 4. Rodgers 5 yards shy of 300 tonight. To the 45, and big 3rd and 2 next.
Can't leave Jared Allen unblocked on the running game, because he's just going to come slide down in behind Clifton and make this play right down the way here. Slide down the line of scrimmage. And the Packers, though, I will give them credit. This is better than I've seen them run it in a while, and they're running it against a pretty good run defense.
Officials that got together for a second. Don't know what that was about. Now they wind the clock from 25. Packers just 36%, last in the league on 3rd and short. And here they are with a big 3rd and short.
This is usually when Donald Driver comes into play. Let's see if he has one play in him tonight.
Slot right is Driver. Nelson outside of him. Rodgers. Oh, not even close. Both receivers in that area cut off their routes, and then Rodgers threw it downfield, 4th down.
Just unbelievable. It's a whole back shoulder issue coming to light again. That time Aaron Rodgers thought that Jordy Nelson was going down the field, and Jordy Nelson was thinking back shoulder. It's amazing. I mean, that's you know, these guys do that play all the time.
The match day. Fair catch called for and made by Camarillo at the 17-yard line. More Favre magic in Green Bay? We'll find out. 6:07 left. There's Woodson, Defensive Player of the Year. Randy Moss, meanwhile, on the other side, just 2 catches for Woodson tonight for 17 yards.
And Woodson's the guy that Brett Favre says can dictate to me somewhat what I do on offense.
They start on the ground where Peterson's having a good night. Tackled by Matthews there.
And the Packers staying in that 2-deep look, and due in large part, even though Randy Moss hasn't done a lot so far this evening, you just don't want to open yourself up for a big play. So they're staying back, they're staying conservative, and hoping their guys up front can stop Adrian Peterson.
Moss wide left, Harvin wide to the right.
Woodson fooling around inside a little bit.
Peterson, well, he almost busted it all the way through. Tackled by Collins. First down.
Well, I tell you, Anthony Herrera is playing a great game tonight. I really like watching him play. I think he's the most physical of their offensive linemen up front now. The double team off on the linebacker. And watch Adrian finish these runs, staying low, hanging on to the ball. Hasn't fumbled it so far this year, even though the one last week that was attributed to Brett probably was his. Has really improved his game.
And speaking of Woodson, there's Harvin, and Harvin's going to come off the field, and Woodson was a little iffy as well, but he's going to stay in. Harvin has to come off for the injury timeout. Woodson gets a little break right here because Harvin was the first guy to be a little shaken there. And Woodson gets the extra time as a bonus.
Woodson's had the issue with his toe, missed a lot of practice this week. His wife had emergency C-section. So it's been a strained week already.
From the 33, here's Peterson again. He gets hogtied after a gain of 2 yards by C.J. Wilson.
Yeah, and now the Packers starting to rock those safeties down a little bit to play Adrian Peterson. We'll see whether or not they're going to take a shot now. If those safeties want to come play the run, and that's always the game, you start coming down a little bit, single high safety in behind it. Now you get Randy Moss in some one-on-ones.
Moss wide to the left. Tramon Williams on him. Harvin back in the game wide to the right. Peterson again on the ground. Up to the 36-yard line. C.J. Wilson is there. One thing about Peterson is, remember, he had huge fumbling problems. 20 fumbles in his first 3 years. But this year, none. Now, last week he botched a handoff from far, but when it's a handoff botch, it's always the quarterback who gets charged with it.
That one-on-one coverage that he got on the first 2 plays is gone now. So give C.J. Wilson and that defensive line credit. They did their job. Now it's up to the secondary.
3rd and 7. Big conversion here. Otherwise, they have to start taking their timeouts on defense after a punt. Favre. Underneath. He throws. That is caught. That is Gerhardt. And he will be stopped a little short of the first down at the 42-yard line. It's going to be 4th and inches.
Well, A.J. Hawk got just enough of Gerhardt, and it was close. Give Gerhardt some credit. He fought for everything he had, but Hawk got just enough of a piece of him. There's Hawk right there. Going to come over and make this play.
You know, they're a little short, Chris. I think you got to go for it here. You've got Adrian Peterson. You got 4th and inches, because otherwise you're going to turn it over, and then you have to use your timeouts on defense.
Well, and plus, even if you can hold them to a field goal, you still are within a touchdown.
Absolutely.
So I agree, and I think they'll go for it here. And believe me, for the Vikings, probably a little easier to go for it in this situation with Adrian Peterson than it would be for the Packers, whose running game is a little more suspect.
Minnesota with 4 clock stoppages at their disposal, the 2-minute warning plus all 3 of their timeouts.
And I think an extra offensive lineman, Ryan Cook, now in the game, number 62.
He is. He lines up in the backfield. Now he's on the left side. You got Tahi in the game at fullback. You got Peterson through the middle. and AP picks up the first down. 4th and inches, he gets 3 yards, and the ball comes out to the 46-yard line.
Well, I just love his heart, and really give Anthony Herrera a little credit here as well. He made a great adjustment on this block. He pulls around and gets stuffed initially, comes off athletic enough to come up and make this play. You'll see him run into basically B.J. Raji there, but he comes off and gets just enough of a piece of A.J. Hawk to pick it up.
From the 47-yard line. Peterson again to the outside. Nowhere. Woodson comes up to stop him. And they're going to let it go down to the 2-minute warning right now after a loss of 2.
And Clay Matthews is complaining that he got held, and I thought he did too. Jim Kleinsaucer got a big chunk of his jersey.
Well, they're going to try to go for it at the 2-minute warning, and they just do get the play off as Percy Harvin makes the catch to the 48-yard line. It looked like they were going to let the clock wind down, then they ran it right down to the last millisecond. 2 minutes to go in Green Bay in a 4-point game. Third down and 5. From the 48, each team with its full complement of timeouts.
Double coverage on Moss.
Moss left, Harvin in the slot to the right.
It wasn't.
Favre pump faking, throws underneath, juggled, incomplete. Harvin couldn't make the catch. Coverage is there from Nick Collins, and it's 4th down and 5.
And I think that they may have fooled Brett Favre a little bit on that. It fooled me as well. It looked like they were double covering Moss on the outside here with these two guys, but at the last second, the safety comes up, and Moss did have the single coverage going down the field. Good job of disguise that time by the Packers.
4th and 5 at the 48. Play clock at 1, and Favre has to use a timeout. Not what you want to do, but he had to do it. Otherwise, they were going to get the delay of the game to make it a 4th and 10 instead. Following the timeout, 4th and 5 at the Green Bay 48-yard line. Everybody in Lambeau on their feet. Favre slings it, caught. Moss to the 35-yard line. 1st down. Brett hustles them up to the line of scrimmage.
And Brett with the snap count that time. Got them to show what they were doing in the secondary. A brilliant move by Brett. Once he saw the single coverage on the outside to Moss, he knew right where to go with the ball.
1:25 and 2 timeouts. Down by 4. From the 35, Favre stepping up, gets sacked from behind at the 41-yard line. Jarius Wynn, number 94, with a huge sack.
It's really poor play by Brett on that one. It wasn't there. The coverage was in place. It was 1st down, and he held the ball for 5 seconds at least. On the outside, you're going to see it simply wasn't there. They went into a zone kind of look. Nothing there, despite the fact Berrien wanted an illegal contact. Greg Lewis coming across, it wasn't there. The clock in Brett's head at some point has to go off. Brett wasn't looking that way, or he had a shot for Moss, but here it is. It's not there. You got to get rid of it. You can't take that sack at this point in the game.
First sack of the game for either team. And Jarius Wynn with his first career sack. Could hardly have come at a more opportune time. 6-yard sack, 2nd and 16. It also compelled Favre to take another timeout, so they're down to 1. Need a little extra time, I think, to walk it off as well with the ankle. Second down, 16. Caught. Peterson. Adrian Peterson inside the 20-yard line and shoved out of bounds at the 15.
And I tell you what, Randy Moss ends up with a key block on this one as Peterson starts coming back across the field. Why not? You get the ball in the hands of one of the great players in the game and let him go to work. Nobody expects him out the back door. There's Randy Moss with his block. Good block down the field. And there goes Moss. Just enough right there. My, oh my, Brett Favre in Lambeau. Here we go.
You saw McCarthy earlier in the play. He wanted a block in the back, and now you got flags before the snap. Peterson's first catch of the game.
False start. Offense, number 81. 5-yard penalty. First down.
That's Shanko. Wild one.
Wow.
26-yard gain for Peterson, who tonight is 131 yards on the ground. 26 receiving.
And for the Packers, here they go again. Their losses have come down to the last minute, and here we are again.
All 3 losses this season, each of them by 3 points. 2 in overtime. First and 15. Favre stepping up, throws. He had a flag down. The ball caught by Shanko at the 10-yard line, but now at the end of the game, this is when the umpire moves back into his old customary position, and that's where the flag came from.
Yeah, Phil Lodeholt.
Personal foul, grabbing the face mask, 71 defense, 15-yard penalty, still first down.
Phil Lodeholt.
No question about it. Phil Lodeholt and Clay Matthews came hard around the corner. You're going to see him put his hands right inside the face mask, twist it. Good call. And for Clay Matthews, no sacks tonight, but the leading sacker in the league coming in made his presence felt there.
57 seconds. It's first and 30. Three-man rush, 8 back. Favre going deep in the end zone, and it is caught for a touchdown by Hartman. You can't make this stuff up.
But was he in bounds?
That's the question.
Here we go again.
No challenges. It's all for the booth review. The call on the field is a touchdown.
One down,
oh no.
The other out.
Of course.
And Mike McCarthy's about to have a heart attack waiting for the challenge. Remember, there is no push out. You have to come down unless the receiver was carried out of bounds. But that second foot looked clearly out.
And the crowd just saw it on the board, and Green will go over to confirm it, but it's going to come back.
Now, if you want to make a case for something, you might argue pass interference on Pepra there. He kind of went into Percy Harvin and was a bit of the impetus, but obviously that's not reviewable. Mike McCarthy wanted everybody to know what he saw.
You still can't make this stuff up.
And for Brett Favre, so close to a storybook ending to Lambeau Field for him.
Still not over.
No, I believe me.
It's going to be second and 30 when we come back after the official review. 48 seconds remaining and 1 timeout. So this is just a matter of confirmation. It should be a pretty easy call here for Green.
After reviewing the play, the receiver's second foot came down out of bounds. Pass is incomplete. It'll be second down on the 35-yard line.
see that, how much that ankle bothers him, even with the celebration. Hopping on the 1 foot.
Well, he was hoping that was his last pass of the night, but time to reload the gun here.
So it's 2nd down and 30 from the 35-yard line.
No pressure, though, is allowing Brett Favre plenty of time to let his receivers work down the field, and again, a 3-man rush.
Moss left and Berry into the right. 3 coming. Favre throws underneath. Peterson. And Peterson breaks tackles, can get to the 20-yard line. That's going to make it 3rd down and 15, and a timeout taken here by the Vikings, and that will do it for their timeouts.
Timeout. Minnesota. This is their 3rd and final timeout. 30-second timeout.
There was one guy who was not going to make that sack, Clay Matthews. They had half of the state of Minnesota blocking him. Percy Harvin, Vasanchenko, and now you finally get the load hold. No helmet, hair fly. It's like a video game out there. Pretty gutsy effort by him, struggling with the hamstring, and he is all about everything, isn't he? He is going to fight just like his daddy did and his grandfather before him.
37 seconds, no timeouts, 3rd and 15.
We have seen Randy Moss over the years make a few leaning out of bounds catches in key moments.
This will be the 15th play of this drive, which started back at the Minnesota 17. Favre rolling. Going to throw all the way back across the field and to Sheboygan. So it's 4th down.
Well, the Packers have just committed to total coverage. That time they walked a linebacker out on Randy Moss to beat on him a little bit, and really nowhere to go. Tried to come all the way back across the field and try for one of those jump balls to Randy Moss, but too far gone.
Down to this. 4th and 15. Oh, and Favre goes down and gets back up. And then he throws for the end zone. And too high, incomplete. And that's the way, in all likelihood, it ends for Favre at Lambeau.
Randy Moss got away with a little push. If that ball had been a little closer, he may have had a chance. You got your big guy in the back of the end zone. See the little push there he put on Tramon Williams. He didn't get away with it earlier, but if this one were closer.
And the Green Bay Packers are finally going to win a close one. After 3 excruciating losses, and the Vikings coming so close to a near miracle. That would have been asking too much. The fall down, get up, and throw a touchdown pass. And there is Brett Favre, 20th year, hobbling back to the locker room as the Green Bay Packers win it by a score of 28-24. Favre with Rodgers.
In boxing, you would say, can't wait to see the rematch.
Yeah, right. Well, there'll be one not long from now in Minnesota. But that's a huge win for Green Bay. An excruciating loss for Minnesota. It was Brett with Al Harris, who's just coming off the PUP list. Of course, he probably knows everybody in the building.
But you just cannot understate the significance for the Green Bay Packers, a team that had lost 3 out of 4 If Minnesota had come into their place and stolen one, and all of a sudden you're looking at the Minnesota Vikings at 500, it is a game on. But that one helped the cause for the Packers right there. Now they move to 4-3, and the Vikings still stuck on 2 wins.
Melancholy, bittersweet. Perfect ending for the fans. And for Brett Favre and all that's going on in his world, off the field, on the field, physically. Next stop is New England. Green Bay to New York, but Green Bay will go there 4-3, and as Brett limps off the field, the Vikings are now 2-4, equaling their loss total for all of last season.
Well, you don't know how the fans all feel about it, but I think you have a pretty good idea of how the Green Bay players feel about it.
Yep.